hopefully that's that. Okay. Are we all okay?
Oh, yeah.
I'm really glad to see people here. I thought we were going to be very low in number, and it looks like we might actually be okay, which is great. But I think a lot of people are on holiday and enjoying themselves in the sunshine, so it's even more important that we get to see you here. So thank you very much for giving up a bit of your afternoon. As I said, I'm recording this as usual, partly to help me with notes and for reminding me of actions that I might take on, but also because it's a really good record for those who have already sent their apologies and may want to watch this in future. So if anybody has an issue with that, I do understand that you may not want to be on camera, but we like seeing you. We're now trying out this new inbuilt closed captioning system as well that Zoom has. So if anybody has any feedback on that later and sort of funny anomalies that happen, I'd be very interested to hear from you. I'm expecting another 5 or 6, so I'm just going to give it a moment. Have you all got a drink? Oh. Mick, you're so civilised.
The water of life.
Welcome, Kelly. Well, what I might just do while we're waiting on other people who have registered to come in is I might just give you apologies to sort of prove that people are still interested. They're just busy this week. We've had another 5 apologies. So Rory Cullen from Irish in Britain, Des Hurley from Leeds Irish Arts Foundation, Lorraine Mayer from I Am Irish, Julie McNamara from Vital Exposure, and Patrick Morrison, Chair of Cultus, have all sent apologies. So we'll hope to see them in the meeting in 2 months' time. I've put together a little rough agenda that includes sort of introductions and work sharing, whether or not there's any barriers that we haven't spoken about previously that we'd like to raise. I'd like to give some feedback from an ACE meeting, so an Arts Council England meeting that has happened now. I've got a tiny update from Irish in Britain, and I also wanted to talk to you all about toolkits that we want to see and how we might start building them. And I also really want to talk to you about a possible cultural connectedness exchange day as part of this year's Liverpool Irish Festival. Then I wanted to just feedback a little bit on a meeting that Kelly and I had with Culture Island and a number of other people who were part of this group, and invite any other questions really. So if anybody's got anything that they'd like to see us talk about in AOB at the end, if you want to drop it in the chat and I will come back to that. But what I think I'll do now is hand over to you guys and say, could you give an introduction from you about you and what you're working on at the moment, and that what you might like other people here to know about, they might connect with you over. And I'm going to pass to Jerry first.
Oh gosh, okay then. Jerry Maloney up here in Derbyshire. I thought it was going to rain. There was thunder rattling. So if I run off with my, can you hear me? If I have to run off with my laptop, you'll know why. We had a very successful Bloomsday. I'll be very quick, down in Northampton at the grave of Lucia Joyce. I'm currently trying to cast a play called The Tinker's Wedding by J.M. Singh. So if you know of any actors in around the Midlands, it's a lovely play, get in touch. And thirdly, I am putting together, hopefully to go on tour. I'm doing a one-man show around Irish memories to take to Irish day centres and do some Irish reminiscence with older people once the lockdown is getting better. So I've been putting it together during the lockdown. I've done it before in my previous day job before I retired, reminiscence, and and tapping into people's memories who have different levels of cognition. So that's it for me.
What do you need from people with that, Jerry? Do you want them to contact you to say they've got a centre they'd like you to come to? Or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And frankly, there's no fee involved. It's something I discover with older people, that humor, reminiscence, music, it does so much for them. It's the one feeling they still have, as they get into their dementia or whatever. Feelings stay with them. Feelings are the last thing we all have until the moment we die. So if you can tap into that, and music and comedy, poems, stories, funny walks, does all that for people. Sorry, that's a bit of a ramble, but that's so. I'd love to go and take that to Irish centres. I'm in touch with some already that I know exist, but I'd like to pan it out. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Jerry. Does anybody particularly want to go next? If so, raise a hand. Otherwise, I will pass the baton to Jennifer. Why don't you go next then?
Hi, thank you. So, yeah, my name is Jennifer. I've been working at the Birmingham Irish Association since, I've been working in this role since the start of 2020. As luck would have it, the pandemic started when I did. But yeah, it's really kind of allowed me to build relationships over the pandemic, and hopefully using this regular Zoom chats, I'll be able to build on more relationships. We're trying to grow our projects with the cultural side. We mostly care in Birmingham, and we do sporadic events, but we are trying to put on more regular and more bespoke cultural services as we emerge from kind of lockdown, and promote the things that we have going on already, because we do have a lot going on already. We just probably don't promote it as much as we should. So it's a learning curve for me, and I'm hoping that over the next few months it'll fall into place with hard work, obviously. Sorry, I am mumbling.
All right, thanks ever so much for going second, Jen. Doug, why don't I pass to you?
And I'm unmuted. Lovely. Hello there. Yes, thank you for the card. Hello, I'm Doug Devaney. I present and produce something called the Plastic Podcasts, which is a series of interviews with members of the Irish diaspora. It's currently on a hiatus, I like to call it, which is basically me enjoying the sun. We're coming up into our 5th series, so I'm currently in the process of organising the interviews on that, and I have a website, www.plasticpodcasts.com, if you're interested in taking a listen to any of the episodes and recommending either yourselves or anybody that you know for interview. The idea being that no matter what where you are, first, second, third generation, or how your connection to Ireland is, we all come from somewhere else, so we've all got a story to tell. I've been working with Emma on developing something for the Liverpool Irish Festival, which is something called the Mersey Mash, which will be interviews with members of the diaspora and attendants of the Liverpool Irish Festival between the 21st and 31st of October, in order to try and create a kind of magazine stroke series. It's like an experience of the festival, and also it's like tales of the diaspora from Liverpool. I'm also trying to extend out a one-person show, which is a kind of piece of digital theatre, also called Plastic, which is more a series of personal reminiscences and like more general as like takings of interviews that I've done with the podcasts and so forth, to try and develop a narrative of the diaspora over the last 60 years, which isn't as straightforward as you might like to think. And apart from that, yes, I've just started reading a fascinating book about the Black and Tans, of all things. It's like because of the podcasts we get, I get like sent books, and it's like, would you like to interview the author, sort of thing. Only to discover the story of the 2 James Devaneys, but I'll tell you all about that another time. But yes, it's basically I try and get people to tell their own stories, and also to tell to tell my own and adapt other people's on in there as part of the what I call the TPP, the Plastic Project is the name I'm labouring under at the moment, and that's basically it. And damn me, isn't it still warm?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I know. I brought a hand fan. Thank you.
Having the vapours, I think, is the old phrase for it. Terry, could I come to you? So, Terry, could I come to you next, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Oh, the video went off for some reason. Yeah, I'm basically working as an independent musician at the moment, so I'll keep it short and sweet. Those who don't know me, I play flute, whistles, and other instruments and vocals, etc. So currently, as it stands, I've been working on a project called Whistle Walks, which I did a documentary and a Q&A for the last Irish Festival. And from then, I've been working on polishing off the Whistle Walks album, which is finished and went to print, would you believe it, today. So that could possibly turn up in about 3 weeks. So anyone who wants to stick it on their promotion anywhere would be greatly appreciated. It's all trad Irish tunes on whistles and flutes with many duets on there with some of the top musicians on the planet to do with our trad music. So that's about it, really.
Have you got a link for that, Terry, that we could stick in the chat so people could have a look at it?
Nothing at the moment. I'm just working with Simon Glynn, one of the Irish Festival organisers, and etc. And we're looking at how we're going to do the promotion campaign, and which we're starting over the next week. So as soon as I get something, hopefully, if I pass it through, if you could pass it on to people.
Yeah, I'd love to. Brendan, how about you?
Thanks, Emma. I'm Brendan from the London Irish Centre. I'm Arts and Culture Manager there. So I work on the culture programme, our library, our education programme, and our community events programme. So what we have in the pipeline coming up is a return to live gigs, which is amazing. So we've got a large Damien Dempsey gig happening on the 19th of August. We're returning to full capacity with that, so that's really amazing to be able to put on full capacity gigs again. So we're also working on from now till the end of October, we're working on a project with Camden Council called Camden Together. It's a campaign where they're bringing culture to outdoor spaces. So we're working with Camden Market and some other places to bring a kind of multidisciplinary program of different things. So we have a few ideas bouncing around graffiti, Irish dance, storytelling, Barron workshops, things like that. And then we'll be segueing that into our Black History Month program towards the end of October. And we hope to work with Lorraine Marr again on that from I Am Irish. What we have then as well, in the meantime, in September, we have a Pride program. So this is a first for the London Irish Centre to have a proper full Pride program for the month of September. And the reason we're choosing September is because London Pride Parade is on in September this year. So we'll be working with Epic Museum in Dublin to do a collaboration event. It's called Out in the World. And then we'll be bringing back some of our regular programming, like monthly comedy clubs. We'll be bringing back our film nights. We have a collaboration confirmed with Mockness as well. They'll be bringing their Gilgamesh visual poem over to London Irish Centre. And then a couple of other bits and pieces in talks to bring us all the way up to December for our Christmas. And that's kind of what we're working on at the moment.
Just one or two bits then, really, Brendan. I mean, why don't you do something, for goodness sake? If there's anything that we can do in terms of helping broaden the audiences for any of those programmes, if you've got online programmes as part of Pride or anything, please do let us know, and we'll see if we can sort of filter those out as well, or even just tag us in on socials so that we can forward them as well. I think it's really good to get behind all of those sorts of agendas.
Brilliant.
Yes, Doug.
Yeah, I was just going to say, apropos to that, I've got a newsletter that goes out as part of the Plastic Podcasts subscription service. So if anybody wants to email me details of events or just send me links or something like that, either through the website or theplasticpodcasts@gmail.com, then I can add them in on a monthly basis.
Fantastic. Thanks ever so much, Doug. Mick, we've not been to you yet, have we? Sorry, love, you're on mute.
Good point. Thanks, Emma, and good to see everybody. I'm primarily working on the upcoming 9th edition of the Indie Cork Festival, and it's a mixed program of features, docs, and short films, many of them Irish, but in the spirit of cultural connectiveness. One of the elements of this year's festival, not yet announced, so keep it under your hat, is we're doing a small focus on short films from Northern Ireland, because we've been particularly impressed by shorts from Belfast and Derry and adjacent areas in recent months, and indeed the award for best fiction short film at the recent IFTAs went to a wonderful short called Rough, made by UK based, but because they're making their first feature film in the UK, two filmmakers from Belfast. So anyway, that provoked the thought that we should pay a little bit more attention and actively make a cultural connection between Cork and Northern Ireland. So that's something that we're excited about. And parallel to that, we've been charged by Emma with getting our act together pretty damn quickly for Indie Cork's programme for the upcoming Liverpool Irish Festival. And that's always a great pleasure, because when we look at the films available to us and we reflect on what might be of interest, what reflects an Ireland that people may be familiar with from their past, from their memories, and what films reflect a different Ireland that might be surprising to people. One little gem that I hope we'll have for you, Emma, is a film which has yet to have its world premiere. It's called Mountrath Unlocked. Mountrath is a small neglected Irish town in the Midlands, and the wonderful director Maurice O'Carroll he's made a very affecting portrait of Mountrath and its people during lockdown. And of course, lockdown had all sorts of pressures on people, but it also revealed the importance of local connectiveness. So it's very heartwarming film about a community in the real sense of the word. People who are communally sharing a space. So I hope we'll have that for you, Emma. Maurice is a wonderful filmmaker, so that would be one of the films that I hope we'll be able to present at Liverpool. So that's it.
Thanks very much, Mick. Ruth, are you happy to give an intro? No.
Very, very quickly. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yeah. Well, no big change really. I'm based in Dublin, Irish artist, and I've been working on a project around Liverpool. And most recently had a chat with Doug. So I don't know what's going to come out of that. We'll see in the future. But it's nice to make contact anyway, and I'm just waiting for things to open up to finish my project. It's in a really advanced stage, and it just needs a final shoot to finish. So hopefully I will get that done.
Is there an exhibition lined up for that, Ruth? Do you have a space where that's going to go and an idea of when?
Well, it was meant to happen in the Galway Arts Festival, and hopefully it will do when it gets finished. They're still kind of behind me, I think. So hopefully that'll happen.
I know there's still conversation sorry.
Yeah, it's still the conversation is still open. Yeah, with Paul. So we're keeping, and he knows. Hopefully, it'll happen soon. It'll be. I think it'll be kind of. I tried to work out during lockdown a way of making parts that would be a kind of a wonderland part of the thing in Ireland, in kind of gardens in Ireland. So it would end up mixed between Liverpool and Ireland, just working my way around limitations at the moment, and that could kind of work out and shorten what I have to do in Liverpool, make a really clear shoot or whatever, but I do have a lot of material so far and I keep working on it, so
great.
Hopefully we'll all get to see it sometime.
Jean, how are you, and what work would you like to share with us today?
Oh, hiya. Apologies for being late. I couldn't get in today. Well, I'm just so happy because I can go to Wexford soon. I only found out on Saturday, of course, the quarantine's lifted. It was a bit frustrating because I should have been I am in the Ceramics Ireland exhibition in Dublin, but I've only got one piece in, which was in storage in Ireland. But it just wasn't, I couldn't get over last week with the travel restrictions. Anyway, it's opened last week. And if anyone's going to Dublin, go to the castle, and the Ceramics Ireland exhibition is absolute top class stuff. It's really great, definitely worth going to. That's on for about another 3 weeks now. So yeah, apart from that, I've just started to get stuck back into work a little bit now. Within the next couple of weeks now, I'll be able to go over to Wexford and start to make, reconnect with people over there and start to get going a bit more on things. So that's it really. For those that don't know me, I'm just an individual artist and ceramicist and writer. So
nice to see you, Jean.
Yeah.
John Chandler, would you like to finish up sort of personal introductions?
Well, I'm John, yes. I'm the founder and chair of the Liverpool Irish Festival, which has already had a couple of mentions. We are a unique and wonderful event that happens every October for 10 days with a myriad of events, which are driven primarily from the board and the equally wonderful Emma, who's on screen as I speak. And we're delighted to have seemingly endured the worst of the coronavirus that can throw at us, and can look forward with some hope towards continuing to march on and indeed expanding our ambitions certainly for the years to come. If you want any more details of the occasion itself this year, then I'm sure Emma could be more usefully looked to provide information. But I'm just delighted to see you all and to work alongside several of you on screen and many others besides. Thank you.
I guess what I'd say is, in addition to what John's saying, we're in the sort of process now of really rounding out our programme. We've got a copy deadline of the 6th of August where we're trying to make sure that everything is set, because we will produce, here's what I made earlier, a newspaper like this, which we're sending to 20,000 homes this year, and it could be more if we're successful with some of the funding. That means that really we need to have everything that we want to give the best sense of promotion to in here and finalised. So if anything comes up from today where we think, I might quite like to get that in their programme, or, if Jerry, you want to do something at the Liverpool Irish Centre, possibly as part of the festival, and you want to get that in, that's kind of a really good reason for having these sessions and going, let's sort of pull those collaborations together and get those working. So we've got until the 6th of August. I will drop you've all got my email. You don't need me to drop it into the chat, do you? And we'll see how we can sort of pull all of that together. There may be opportunities that will come up shortly, because I'm hoping to talk to you all about holding a potential in real life cultural connectedness day that I think maybe we would all like to join in at, if we can and if lockdown permits. But yeah, I'm going to come to that a bit later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand over to Kelly to do your little intro, please. We okay? I can't hear you at the moment. Hannah, are you okay to give an introduction while Kelly works on her tech, if you're there and happy to?
Yeah, of course. I am absolutely boiling. I nearly melted on the bus. But yeah, I've got my water. I'll be fine. So I just had a really profound journey on the bus listening, because this is my first time meeting everyone, and it felt so special. Like, I'm from Manchester, and I was getting the bus directly through Manchester, and I kept seeing Irish people and being like, oh, I'm connecting with Irish artists. It's so I feel really, feels very special to me. So I'm Hannah. Yeah, my parents are my dad is from Galway, my mum is from Kerry, and they immigrated to Manchester. So I'm here representing the Manchester diaspora. I grew up playing Irish music. I'm mainly a Shano singer in terms of music, but I'm an actor. And thankfully the auditions have started coming back, because for a while there it was unemployment all the way. I'm a writer as well. I've been writing now for 2 years, and the way I got connected with Emma and Liverpool Irish Festival is my theatre company had an R&D, a research and development period for my script, which is called A Very Odd Birthday Party. And it's, funnily enough, as Jerry, you were speaking, I was like, this is so interesting. What you were talking about in terms of dementia and tapping into memories, my play explores that quite heavily. It's hard to pin down exactly what it's about, but it's largely a sort of a bit of a love letter to my dad, and his experience of working in Manchester, but also of my experience of growing up in England feeling Irish, but then in Ireland feeling English, and all the tensions that kind of come with that. But also I was driven to write this play because I don't know about the whole of the UK, but particularly in Manchester, it feels like when there's an Irish play, it's very insular, it's like Irish audiences, and it's an Irish play for Irish audiences. And going to the theatre, I'm like, oh, the Irish story needs to be told for the whole of Manchester, because the Irish built so much of this city. And so it came from that passion, I guess, of wanting to, get the story out there, especially of the diaspora as well, and the life after leaving Ireland, and what it means to be an Irish immigrant in the UK. But equally, I want to explore the kind of the trauma that comes with that, but also the humor. There's so much to be celebrated in those tensions and whatnot. So anyway, did an R&D of the script, and it was lovely because we had input from relevant communities like the working class Irish community, Indian theatre makers who also explore those tensions of first and second generation immigration within Manchester, dementia charities, dementia experts. That was great because it really shaped the script, and it helped me as a writer. I want to make sure that the people that are represented, who often feel frustrated because of misrepresentation or underrepresentation, they feel this is authentic. This is an authentic representation of their experience. And that was phenomenal. I'll definitely take that on moving forward. So we had a sharing in which festival in Westport attended, and they were keen to then program the script, which was amazing. But it was in October that they wanted to program it, and it was just impossible in terms of timeline to get that off the ground. So now my theatre company is trying to figure out how to move forward for next year. Hopefully we're aiming for a full-scale production, and Emma's been very generous in her advice, and so it's seeming like this is probably the way to go forward now. Try and get this play off the ground for October 2022. Yeah, I always get that wrong. I'm always so confused about this weird universe we're in at the moment. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment. So I'm very excited to be here. Sorry for the ramble.
No, we're absolutely delighted to have you, Hannah, and it's really nice to have a voice from another city actually represented in the group. It's really great to hear. Kelly, how are we doing? No sound. I'm so sorry. So that means that Kelly's going to have to sit and listen to me talking about her, probably. So Kelly's representing us today from both the Irish Embassy and her linked work with Culture Island. And I was going to give a bit of an update on a meeting that we had recently, which involved some of us who are already here and other organisations that are funded either under the Immigrant Support Programme or under the Culture Island programme. And I thought I'd just give you all a little bit of an update against that to A, remind you that those two things are there, and B, just give a couple of little notes on that. Culture Island sponsor particularly work that celebrates Irish culture abroad, which includes here, but they sponsor very specifically certain line items. So travel, accommodation, per diems, not fees. They expect those to be borne by whoever's commissioning you to do the work. They might help with couriering work if that is an issue for you. But also at the moment, they have a kind of a digital swap out. So obviously, if travel is not going to be the thing that you can do and you're creating a digital output and or a digital legacy for your work, there may be support in that. And I have to say, I hadn't really read into that much previously, and I couldn't figure out how to apply that digital swap out to their form. But my understanding, and Kelly might be able to give us a good nod on this, is they've updated that and it's a lot clearer. And so I would entreat any of you that are operating as individual artists and making work to speak to commissioners that you want to work with and apply to Culture Island, because actually it might help you subsidise your work to them. So if all they've got to find is your artist fee, they might be able to help with the rest. Kelly, do you think that's about right? Now, the best person to speak to there, dealing with individual applications, is a lady called Valerie Bean. And I wonder if actually, Kelly, just because I'm not very good at multitasking, would you mind dropping Valerie's email into the chat? There is also a showcase programme that they're running. So if you wanted to try and engage in something that they're already running or want to find out more about what their showcase programme might look like, that's been looked after by a gentleman called Kieran Walsh. And again, if you sort of want to try and slot in with that kind of work, it might be worth contacting Kieran. Their meeting did very much what we're doing here. There was a sort of tour de table, as they called it, which I thought was very fancy. And and they sort of just updated on where those monies were coming from and what their sort of agenda was with basically trying to overcome the end of COVID now. So they have got a closing deadline of, I think it's the 1st of August for one of their rounds. And then I think it's like bi-monthly rounds that they're keeping going. So I just thought I'd flag that with you. Has anybody got any questions about that? Hannah?
Yeah, sorry, I just missed the start of that, Emma. Is it the work that's like going into Ireland?
So potentially, but it's also work that's coming out of Ireland or somewhere else. So if you were taking work outside of England, but it was Irish content work, they might consider that. I think if I say anything factually incorrect, Kelly will probably put it in the chat for us. Were there any other questions on that? No, I'm not seeing any hands. So what I'm going to do then is, while I've got the stage a little bit, is I'll also just feedback about Arts Council. Those of you who have been with us since the beginning know that partly the reason that this group was set up was because we at Liverpool Irish Festival had encountered what we felt were some sort of structural issues that weren't recognising Irishness as distinct within the context of other ethnic classifications and protected characteristics. And we had taken this up with Arts Council. That happened, I think we must have sent a letter in February 2020, and we had feedback that said, you might be right, actually. Like, Sir Nicholas Rota came back and said, yeah, actually the feedback that you look to have received does seem a bit that way. So there was a conflation between white Irish and white British, and we sort of said, well, we think that really needs to be looked at, and they said, we'll look at that. But we sort of didn't get much of a sense that it was still fully understood. So we pursued a meeting and then COVID hit. And here at the Irish Festival, in our board, we decided that we weren't going to pursue that really again until COVID calmed down, because we knew that Arts Council were working hard with the Cultural Recovery Fund and all of those other things. In the meantime, since setting up this group, Des Hurley, who apologises for not being able to be here today, sent a similar email over to Arts Council to say, we sort of get this, it's not a complaint, it's a sort of sense that we're not really being seen and recognised within Arts Council's portfolio, but also just its granting mechanisms. We're not seeing results of people we know have put applications in be successful. Kind of, can we have a conversation about that? So they set up a meeting with Des, and Des brilliantly invited us to go along with Kelly. And so actually, peculiarly, and sort of from bilateral positions, we all came together. It was quite a successful meeting insofar as they acknowledged there had been a problem and that it is an imperfect system. They are following a kind of ONS protocol, but in a very stripped down way. And they are really tied to that, having set it against loads of their reporting mechanisms, their portal, and all sorts of things that it's all kind of integrated. What they did say was that the monitoring that they do is stripped away from the application base. So the two things are not seen together. So in a sense, one can't affect the other, which might mean we all need to talk about our Irishness more in the actual body of our work, to make clear that there is a sense of this is representational work. This actually has a meaning that is additional to the artistic merit of it. It has a particular reach, it has a particular audience, it tells a particular story of a diaspora community here. Because that way they would see that. So that's what I've kind of taken away from some of that meeting. They have said that they will do some internal training, and we have put in, I think, a date of something like November to revisit that and what's happened. Kelly's nodding. I think that's roughly it. But what I would say is it was a great thing that came through this community, and that collectively the three organisations were able to sit and be representational for this group of people. The organisations that we represent, and a collective voice that they just had never heard before. And one of the bits of feedback that I sent through to Kelly and Des afterwards was, I think we got a long way through that argument about conflating Irishness with Britishness, let alone the kind of ethnic diversity beneath that. I think there are still nuances that it doesn't really sit in well with, but I think we've come a long way. Has anybody got any questions on that, or observations, reflections? Great, okay. Kelly's just made a note, so thank you, which is lovely. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is kind of expand that conversation a little bit and say, okay, we've kind of come through that a bit with Arts Council, and this has been a really useful forum for that. So thank you very much for helping me explore the problem. Are there any other problems that you're facing in your work structurally that we need to look at, or that we can start discussing? Is there anything that you can think of now that we need to be looking at? Excuse my sweaty face. Has anybody got anything they want to add to that? Because if not, I can just move on to where we go next as a group, what else we want to develop, because there's toolkits we can be doing, there's actually sort of professional sessions that we could create. Doug, go ahead.
I think because I've just like come back from mopping my brain out from my years of doing an Arts Council application, and one of the things that I found is that it's this 3-point aim sort of thing, their objectives, one of which I think most importantly, I think we're concerned, is the creation of a cultural community.
Yep.
And what I've done with one of the grant applications was successful, and this next one is a follow-up one. So I'm speaking from the position of that. I think what tends to work in this situation is this emphasis of a cultural community rather than a geographic one or indeed an immigrant one so much as a cultural one. I mean, obviously there are crossovers, and it's not verified that way, but it is a case of, I think, sort of like just pointing out, it's like one, either how you're going to address a particular cultural community, or more importantly, perhaps how you're going to be able to create one.
Yeah, I see that. Is anybody not aware of this new strategy that Arts Council have got? Do I need to try and pull it up on screen for everyone? Because I've got a concern around this idea of putting everything in the hands of community, which I think is them going, I'm very cynical. I've got this idea that basically what they'll do is they'll pull out the money for expertise and make all of it grassroots. And then when they don't get the expertise out of it, they'll say, well, community doesn't work.
I think it's a movable force at the moment.
Yeah, it makes me really nervous.
I know what you mean, but that's always. I mean, so there are shifts afoot anyway with come the 1st of September. The emphasis of the smaller grants is changing, and indeed the size of the smaller grants is changing. I think they're going up to 30,000 from 15,000 for
that's right.
Grants, and the emphasis, I believe, is going to be more on young people and people at the start of their careers, or at least that was the intention. I don't know if that's become policy. How it's like how it's like I think that we're constantly learning, we're constantly at the start of our careers, but that's not going to wash too well with some people.
So just in case nobody's seen it, I'm sorry, this isn't perfectly set up because I didn't know I was going to be sharing it. These are the, I can't, it won't let me share all of the page. Oh, there we go. Can you see that they've got their goal outcomes on the left and their investment principles on the right. And that's what their whole focus of the next 10 years is going to be. Can everybody see it? Having shared my screen, I can't see all of you. Can I get you back? So that cultural community is combined with creative and combined with how we basically create a more exciting country is kind of what they're going to look at funding for the next 10 years. And then their outputs, or the money they want to invest for those outcomes, is on the right-hand side. I think it's not that different to the previous one, but they're shifting where accountability happens, I think. Are we happy for me to take down that share screen? If anybody wants that that graphic, I'm sure I can find the place to download it from to send it out to everyone. Has anybody got any questions around this? And around that changing amount in September. So it's always been difficult. It's an awful lot of work for an under £15,000 at the moment, but actually then the leap up is significant enough for you to argue around that £15,000 point. But actually, if it moves to 30, there could be a lot of benefit for smaller projects in there. So it could be really useful. And certainly for individual artists, there could be a lot of significance in that move. Although there is also a developing your creative practice bid that it might be worth people looking for as well, which has, I think, a different set of creative inputs needed and outputs required. Doug, do you know what the situation is with match funding on Arts Council money at the moment?
At the moment, I think, because I went for over 15 this time, so I had to find match funding this time round, or at least I provide it's like a mixture of match funding and it's like funding in kind. I think where the under 15,000 is concerned, as far as I'm aware, it's still in the position that it has been since they reintroduced it after lockdown, which is that it's not that important at the moment. I mean, my concern is that I mean, personally, I'm kind of caught in a limbo because I'm trying to been timing this in order for the grant to be in time for the Irish Festival. I've had to apply it now in order to allow for a 16-week period of assessment and so forth, which is one hell of a long time to be waiting. And of course, halfway through that, they're going to change the change the parameters of what the change the amount of what the small grant is. But I don't know if they're going to change the parameters of what that small grant means. I mean, it's a sudden boost upwards. It's all a bit of a brave new world. I will say that the develop your own practice thing is hugely oversubscribed at the moment. It's very slim pickings.
So I'm really aware that this part of the conversation only really applies if you're applying for funding in England. I'm not entirely sure what the guidance will be for Arts Council Ireland or the Northern Irish Arts Council. Is that something that it would be useful for us to have representation in this group for in future? Should we make a speaker invite to those bodies to come and talk to you guys about what funding looks like there? Like, is that an action I'll take away? It's 2 thumbs up. So, ES to invite ACs in NI and I to next meeting. Okay, I will take that away. Are there any other sort of structural hardships that people are facing at the moment that aren't just COVID related and that we might be able to talk through a bit here? If not, I can move on. Brendan?
It's not. I suppose it's not quite a structural hardship, but I was wondering, were you thinking of chatting about the points brought up in the Culture Ireland meeting around setting up kind of like a touring network for people? It's kind of something that's come on to, obviously from that meeting, and just come onto our radar about like sustainability and bringing Irish artists over for one single gig, and kind of trying to move to a more collaborative approach with other places around the UK that we could kind of set up touring.
I wasn't, so I'm really glad you've raised it. Just because it sort of slipped my mind that. Can I ask you, people must be sick and tired of my voice by now, can I ask you to just reiterate some of that content and how you see it affecting
so I suppose,
our work maybe?
So I suppose the point raised by Culture Ireland was just that it's obviously there have been up till now difficulties with travel with COVID and things like that, and it's kind of maybe refocused things towards digital, capturing events digitally. But I suppose it's obviously a good time to kind of take and reflect on how we are being sustainable in our approach to bringing artists over from Ireland to perform like a single gig at the London Irish Centre. Like, how is that kind of consciously sustainable in terms of the environment and things like that? And I suppose for the artists themselves as well, like so the idea out of that chat with Culture Ireland was that it could be great to move towards setting up a touring network, and basically kind of like a collaboration on program between places like ourselves and other Irish centres around the UK, and how we can maybe work on trying to bring artists over for a full tour. I think it's an amazing idea, and it kind of in my mind opens up more questions on how it would run and stuff like that. But I think it's just in general it would be an amazing thing to try and work on.
Terry?
I think we touched on this briefly at the last meeting. From my side of things, we know we've collaborated with the Liverpool Festival and Return to Camden Town, with Newcastle Irish Festival over the years. What you were saying, Brendan, it's sort of, because it's all in hand, the management of artists at the moment, and it's sort of the way it always has been. And an artist, you mentioned Damien, I know Damien well, and he's he's under quite strict management, and as most major artists are, and they control all the movement. Now, I see a sort of a stepping stone to what you're saying, is getting a major artist management involved in something like this group, or at least a conversation with this group, but someone who has a less of a it's all about us, it's all about the management, it's all about the money, and someone with a bit of slightly different ethos and ethics about how how they might look at their own involvement in not just their artists, but in artists in general, about the business. And I would hope that someone might bite the bullet and say, yes, it would be great if the major centres who take artists, say like Damien, rather than going on the management tour, they will say, let's take them on the Irish Diaspora Tour. So there is a forum, and it might be that they go to all of the places they would normally go to where there's a fan base, but they would also go to the diaspora bases as well, because they're not always the same. So that's my only sort of input there. Is it's a big hurdle because it's all about money. It's not about culture at that side of things, in the booking side. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was Des brought it up in the meeting as well, is that there's quite people have it's an industry that's based on relationships as well, in terms of, you know, and some people might be kind of covetous of those, are precious about those connections and those so
Yeah, it's about creating a positive market rather than putting everybody in competition with everybody, isn't it? You know, so actually it's really lovely that using our example as the example, so that we might have people here in October, but actually I don't know that I want them in Manchester, in Bolton, in Lancashire, in all of those, you know, in all of the periphery, because then that's actually potential competition for the thing that we came in with the kind of creative notion for. But actually, if it was broad enough and sensible enough that it encapsulated more groups and more opportunity for people supporting each other's work and passing the baton across the country a bit, it could be a really beneficial addition to all of our programme, because we might be able to share the benefits of co-efficiencies on travel or accommodation or whatever. Terry?
So just one very quick example. Many years ago, I asked Cherish the Ladies to come over from America, and the cost of that was way too much for us. So I asked Karen down in London for the Return to Camden Town, as it was then, to put them on the next night, and one of us paid flights, the other paid the accommodation, and we shared the gig fee. So that collaboration is long-standing history, but it's not common. And the likes of Des, who I know very well, you know, there are musical, passionate people who are in positions who might be able to steer that type of thought process, because the artists want to play where they're wanted, not just where they're told to go. You know, there are obviously, you know, they need their money, they want their fees, but there's still, you know, good people out there who are looking to pass on their passion and their music, or whatever the art is, in different ways.
And I think we always hope that this forum, if we could all get to know each other a bit better and spend a bit more time together knowing each other and building those sorts of relationships, that might happen, that I might be able to say to Brendan, you know, oh, actually, we'd really love to get these guys, but it's going to be this much. Do you fancy them in your gig, you know, in your venue a couple of days later? Could we, if we went halves on it, could we do it? You know, or something like that. Because I felt up here that I was very connected with Irish welfare services, but not that well connected with Irish commissioning. So again, this is sort of part of that, and the embassy and Culture Island are also now making these sorts of connections. I think there's a real potential for that kind of discourse and sharing and cost efficiency and all of that sort of stuff. I'm going to come to Hannah because she's been waiting really patiently for ages. Hannah.
Hi, yeah. Well, just on that, like that would be so applicable as well to theatre and film, and it would be so good, I think, as well, especially for like just to have that sort of network, which isn't always about like the product as well, just to have that support network of being like, maybe this is very like biased to my situation, but being like, right, what do you actually do? Like, how do you do this? You know, and just having people that I know I can talk to, and I think that would be awesome. Because like in terms of my play, we have like the Met are interested in it, Liverpool Irish Festival might be part of it, and Westernville might be part of it, you know, so then it's about like, yeah, connecting to more places, but also talking and using people. That sounded very cynical. So yeah, my question was, okay, so there's COVID, but then there's this other thing that is called Brexit. And I'm like, what is the dealio with if you work in Ireland? Like, do you need, I don't know, like I'm just, what's the crack there? Like,
so the person who would really give us the best information on this is Soundless at the moment, but is without noise-making facility here anyway. So my understanding is that under the Common Travel Agreement, actually very little has changed, and that work post-Brexit is like work pre-Brexit, because there is a special relationship with Ireland that has navigated that. Kelly's nodding, so I think I'm right with that. I think we're okay. That is only effective in Ireland, though. That isn't about you taking work to France, I'm afraid. But my understanding is working in Republic of Ireland is as it was. And apparently, looking at Kelly's comment, there'll be a new announcement on that about the Common Travel Agreement tomorrow. So it might be worth just keeping your peepers out for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, my understanding is it's same. Are there any comments on that generally? Have we found that useful to have as a discussion? I have. I think we should keep... Kelly, can you not... Is there going to be another one of those culture meetings? Do we know how long between meetings? So the invitees for that were... So we don't at the moment, but the invitees for that were people who receive immigrant funding support, immigrant support programme support, and have applied previously to the Culture Island projects, I think. What I'll do is I'll make sure I keep you guys posted on how that's progressing. I'm going to move us on to the Irish in Britain update, which is there isn't one. As you know, we posed a load of questions that they were going to take forward to the all-party parliamentary group on Irish affairs. They went through a big sort of reshuffle of people and councillors and people that were on that. And because Rory hasn't been able to be here for a couple of meetings, I'm afraid I don't have an update. I haven't forgotten it though. I am like a dog with a chew, and I will keep pushing for information on that and representation there. One of the things that we spoke about in earlier meetings was whether or not we needed like a set of toolkits that might be useful for Irish artists and Irish commissioners who want to work here with us anywhere. And I did set up a bit of a page with a sort of start list of people, places, things that we might want to use, which I have put in here. But has anybody got any pressing needs that they want to see addressed in terms of a toolkit? Do people need lists of where funders are, or something else? Too broad a question. Doug, you've hovered over there.
I have. I'm wondering because there's this gap between. I mean, it's something as simple as maybe a WhatsApp group or something like that. I don't know. It's just because there is this huge gap between. I think there is inevitably a gap between meetings, things like that. And when we talk about what our needs are, I think sometimes it's the case of actually being able to pick each other's brains in between sessions. And I don't know if there's anything set up for that, or if I just missed things completely.
So just to touch on that, well, everybody who's actually signed up as a member of this group, has signed up to agree that their details can be shared. So in some of those emails, you will see each other's emails are there. So you could be picking the brains of a counterpart and saying, can I have your phone number? Can I give you a call about this specific thing?
I think it's more like it's like sending out a bat signal. Can anybody help me, rather than trying to find individuals?
Yeah. But that network is there. You should have it. What I will do, though, is I will communicate the members that have agreed to all of that to the members that have agreed to all of that as a reminder that could be done. I'm worried about GDPR, and so quite often when I am emailing you all, I do just BCC it because I know that people are sensitive to the data being shared, but everybody who has signed up has agreed to that. So I will endeavour to do that so you can send out the bat signal. Bat signal, email, send. Anything else on that? No. So next thing then on my rough agenda is I think I would like to hold an in real life, if it's possible, day on the first day of the Liverpool Irish Festival, which will be the 21st of October. Now, our next meeting would normally be in 2 months' time, but because that will be in sort of September, October, we'd agreed that we'd put it in the festival. So I think the next just meeting is the 26th of October, if I've remembered that rightly. Oh, it might be a bit early than that, it might be the 23rd. But how do people feel about that? Do you think that you might like to travel for a day like that here at the Liverpool Irish Centre? And then in the evening, we'd have our launch, which you would be really welcome to stay on for, followed by a gig that we'd implore you to stay on for, because I think it's going to be lots of fun. And we'd be looking at maybe talking through some of these things in person, but we'll set a really good, really focused agenda. And then in the afternoon, I thought we could listen to some artist pitches, and so about how they're working, how their practice is developing, and how they work here with us and what they might like to bring to us. Does that sound like a good day for people? Oh, I'm getting the thumbs up from Brendan. I got brilliant. Well, in that case then, pencil that in your diary now. By August the 6th, I'll have it confirmed. And we'll start shouting about it. Well, we'd love you to come and be part of that day. I think we'll sort of get the overview sorted for August, and then we'll follow up with more details in between. We would like to make that a free day, but we'll need to figure out how we can get everyone to us, and what we do in the event that there might be not even a second lockdown, and what will it be, an umpteenth lockdown, and how we sort of work around that. But I think it would be lovely for us all to come together, wouldn't it? Has anybody got any ideas for something they'd really like to see happen that day, or that they want to do that day with us, that I can come back to you about after this meeting? Jerry, I'm going to pick up with you anyway around reminiscence exercises. Okay, well, Hannah?
I'm just thinking like, no, it's not a fully formed thought, Emma. Can I just...
That's fine. You're penciled in anyway, Hannah.
It was just more about like, I wondered if someone else, like an artist, has a pitch, and I might think, oh, you know who I think it would need to hear that pitch is blah, blah, blah. So could I invite blah, blah, blah along? But like, is there a way of knowing kind of what the artist's pitches are in advance?
Yeah, so what I'm hoping to do is have a rough outline of that by the 6th of August, but actually we'll start shaping that up later, and it will be an open invite to people who wish to attend. So like you, it isn't a solid thing yet, but it will firm up as we sort of progress towards it.
Amazing.
Well, I'm thrilled with that. I'm really looking forward to that day, and to us all getting together and literally sharing ideas and thinking about where we might want to take those in future years. That feels like a really positive outlet for this group. Were there any other sort of toolkit ideas or needs that we can come back to? Because I'm thinking that we might do a little bit of that on that day anyway, but if there was anything pressing that I could be working on in the meantime, I'd take those away. Not getting anything. Fine. Has anybody got any other business they'd like to pick up on? Or anything they'd just really like to share with us that they're really proud of that they've got through during COVID? Because I think it's a miracle we're all here and doing it and still smiling and waving at each other.
Emma, sorry, I've just posted on the chat there just a thought that came to me in between taking the washing in and coming in.
Oh yeah.
It's as a result of today and all the networking and wanting to be together, that if any of the Irish centres or groups wanted to have the Tinker's Wedding as a play that they would showcase, I would love to come and maybe produce it, because the fact of the matter is there are more big conurbations like Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham have more of a pool to choose from in terms of second and third generation Irish. The East Midlands, not so much. So that and if you go down to Stevenage and Peterborough, it's even, I suppose, less. So big cities like Liverpool and Manchester, you're lucky to have so many. But I don't want that to be a potential barrier. So I could easily jump on a train and doing all day rehearsals. It's a short 2-act play. It's not, so we could rehearse it intensely and potentially put it on. But that's just a selfish thought. I just thought I'd jump on the bandwagon and say that.
Well, in a way, this is about a bit of a selfish space, because we're all sort of trying to plug what it is we do in case there's a way of sort of tying in with someone else, isn't there? So I think that's absolutely fine. Anybody else? Jennifer, go ahead.
So, I mean, at the moment, I know that, again, it's kind of like saying what we've been doing, but if it helps anyone else with any projects that kind of like in between lockdowns kind of thing, we've had a project going on with one of our local artists, Joe Baker Sullivan. He's a really talented musician. We've been going into schools intermittently and kind of changing the plan ever so often, but we've purchased a lot of instruments that we were teaching the children. They've really they've been so enthusiastic, bless them, doing their own composing and everything like that. We were going to do an evening, but obviously because of COVID and the bubbles, it wasn't to be. But we're doing a video instead. But if anyone wants to know any more about like the setup of that, because it's something that has worked really well with us during COVID, and I don't know how long this sort of set's going to go on for with lockdowns, etc. But if anyone wants to get in touch with how we've done it, or if it's something that anyone else wants to kind of do, then more than welcome to get in touch, etc. But yeah, sorry, rambling again. That's just me.
Not at all. Thinking back to when we were sort of saying, oh gosh, well, actually all of this funding focus seems to be very England based. Do you think during those moments there might be England-based organisations that you as Irish artists based not in England could be using us to apply through? So that if we're working collaboratively, we might be able to make those applications to those places. So although it wasn't specifically relevant necessarily to you making that application, if we're working collaboratively, that might be something that we take on as part of our wider bid. So although it may not have felt particularly relevant, I should have thought of that earlier to say that might be a way that makes it relevant, that we look to secure that funding to enable you to do that and to give you access to those funding pots, if that makes sense. That's part of this collaborative function here, that we aim to do that. I think that's all I've got to update on until I can send you all information about the Cultural Connectedness Day. Has anybody else got anything they would like to add to this session before I formally close it? No? Is everybody okay? Are we all right? How are we managing in this heat? Is everybody else surviving more than me? I genuinely feel like molten wax.
I spent Sunday in a large leather mask out in Trafalgar Square as a Cheshire Cat for a live chess game. I'm still recovering. I know, that's my life. That's my life.
Yeah. Well, we can't top that, can we?
Can you send pictures, Doug?
You don't want to see.
Of the mask?
Yeah, the mask and the makeup underneath, which was frankly terrifying. It's something called Chess Fest, and so forth, and it's like the whole things were as Alice in Wonderland characters on this large, giant, human-sized chessboard. It was, it was madness. I just went around going, "Hello, how do you do?" Just a cat, sort of thing. Scaring the adults but not the children. Weird.
Yeah, I can see that. So Kelly has just had her aircon blow out completely. So I'm wishing you every best luck with sorting that out. Before very long, I will be in touch with everybody with this sort of round robin to remind you that you can all speak to one another, and I would entreat you to do so. And if anybody has any thoughts about stuff they would love to do with us between the 21st and the 31st of October this year, remember I need to know by the 6th of August. It's really lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us and spending time with us. This will be available for everyone to see, I hope, by the end of the week, and it will go back on the event page if you ever want to access it to remind us of what we've said. But other than that, thank you again. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.